Nationals has been really communicating with the state directors and what their plans are, and helping us be able to have better resources for you. So that's kind of happening in the pipeline. They haven't really published everything just yet, but be on the lookout for emails of some future opportunities heading your way. Next is the hotline operator. I don't know how many people utilize this, but I utilize it all the time. They are expanding their categories that they'll be able to cover. So definitely, if you have questions, please contact them. They are a huge resource for me, but not, and also for you. So some things that they're going to be covering is membership, career essentials, program of work, chapter of excellence, and also championships. So if you have any questions, their phone number is on the bottom, but you can also Google that phone number too. So months before COVID, Nationals had actually been working on this theme for 2020 and 2021. I really believe it could be no better fit for 2020. So the theme is Empower. So be on the lookout for new items and resources and toolkits for you to use in your classrooms via in-person or the hybrid or the virtual options that schools are really looking at. Nationals will also be sending out the digital graphics for each one of these also. They'll be sending out posters too. So kind of be on the lookout for that. They just told us last week that they are finalizing everything for those to be sent out. Next, so last week our board met, and I also sent that out in Monday's update, and I've had numerous questions regarding this. And the biggest questions that I've had is just with the virtual classes. So our board had really in-depth conversations regarding this new update of membership and clarification of what an active member is for SkillsUSA Kentucky. But the biggest thing, you guys can read it, but the biggest thing is we want to make sure that our CTE teachers are teaching the classes that our students are being involved in. We are concerned that schools might reassign teachers different responsibilities. So we really need to make sure that our teachers are being able to teach our students in person, online, or hybrid. So if a student is just taking an online course and that certified teacher in that pathway is not overseeing it, the student cannot be a SkillsUSA member. But if the teacher, the certified teacher, is overseeing the class, if it's in person, online, or hybrid, the student is eligible to be a SkillsUSA member. So next I want to introduce Reagan. She is our Career Programs and Pathway Branch Manager.
All right, good afternoon, guys. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and introduce myself. I wish that it could have been in person. As Kristen said, I'm the Career Programs and Pathways Branch Manager here at KDE. My background in CTE is in Family and Consumer Sciences. I was a culinary arts teacher for 8 years, and I came on to OCTE in March. So I got here just in time for all the fun. If you are a transportation, a manufacturing, or a law and public safety instructor, you should be receiving some emails from me. I try to send you guys updates as I can. If you do not receive any of those emails, you've never heard my name before, and you're in one of those program areas, just jot me an email let me know what school you're at, let me know what you teach, and I will add you to the appropriate distribution list. It says up here at the top of this slide, we have had retirements. Dana Tackett retired in manufacturing, and Todd Nickens retired in transportation. And so those program areas are currently vacant. We will be posting the position application for those two curriculum areas hopefully very soon. It is in the final round of processing with personnel. I check and see just about every day to see if it's posted yet, so keep an eye out for that. You can keep an eye out on kentucky.gov, but I will also be sending an email to the transportation and the manufacturing program area instructors when those positions are posted to let you know. We would love to have a teacher from those program areas join our team here at KDE. I'm here in the office this afternoon, but that's kind of spare. You will likely start the position from home as we're all working virtually right now. So if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to send me an email. If you're in any other program area at all, other than those, I work with those too. So I'm here to help you. I know this time is a challenge. I was just recently in the classroom as well, so definitely feel for the position you guys are in and the challenges we have at the upcoming school year. So please reach out. Thanks, Kristen.
All right, thank you. So next is our foundation. We've had a really strong SkillsUSA Kentucky foundation, but back in October, we had elected new board members. So definitely reach out to John Marks. He is the president over the foundation. So if you are in need of anything or if the foundation can help support you, definitely reach out to him. His email is on this slide, but if you 6 months from now, realize that you didn't save his email, definitely reach out to me because I talk to John quite often. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we do have new board members, and I think the foundation is looking at some future changes and how they can support each chapter in Kentucky. So some new things kind of in the pipeline with that. So as we look at membership this year for the upcoming school year, many questions occur, and there's many different moving parts, and each county, school, and local chapter looks completely different from one another. So I just wanted to touch base on some factors that I feel that are really important to look at whenever you are starting to plan for your fall and spring semester of your school and for your local SkillsUSA chapter. I think a big key for us is to really look at the big picture and see how things are working and functioning even during COVID-19, and to make sure that we can possibly sustain that for even future years. So some of the things that I wanted to touch base on is really determining what your school model is going to be looking at. I know each school district is completely different and it changes on a day-to-day basis, but really making sure that you know what action that you're going to be taking, if it's virtual or the hybrid version, really does play a key on what your school year looks like and your local chapter looks like. Another concern is budget cuts. I know during this time, a lot of budget cuts are being made in the school systems, but just be mindful. A lot of our activities, especially for the fall, are going virtual. So just kind of be mindful of that. We're kind of taking it month by month to see what the spring looks like, but just be really diligent on what to spend money on and what not to spend money on. Next is the business partners. The biggest key with the business and industry partners is they're also feeling the stress that we are feeling. They're having to adapt day to day, just like we are. So the biggest key is keeping communication with them and keeping them engaged as much as possible. With that, hopefully you'll be able to retain that business partner and that industry partner, not just for this year, but for future years. Next is travel restrictions. Like I said earlier, majority of all of the fall Skills USA activities are going to be virtual. So just be kind of cognizant of that. But like I said, in April or for the spring, we're kind of taking that month by month. And the next question that we're going to be kind of covering is how to engage your local membership. So right now, we really need to focus on this fall. The three things from August to December that we need to make sure we focus on are chapter members, chapter officers, and state officers. So right now, Monday, the state officer applications opened. At the beginning of the spring, we decided to postpone our state officer applications just because we really didn't know how to tread the waters at that point in time. But with the school year beginning, we're really trying to hit the ground running with our state officers. So the plan is Monday, our state officer applications opened. They're going to be due by August 14th. We're hoping to schedule interviews August 19th through the 21st. That's really dependent upon the interview committee and the state officer applicants, but that's our target week to do interviews. And we're hoping to announce August 28th with a virtual session with the state officers for this coming school year. The applications can be found at SkillsUSAKY.com, which is our website. They were sent out in the updated email. But if you do have somebody that cannot find them, definitely send me an email and I can send you that application. Keep in mind, one of the biggest reasons why the applications got postponed in the spring was because of not all the paperwork was filled out and not all the paperwork had signatures. So whenever you do have a student filling those out, make sure that they fill out each one of those papers and they have everything e-signed and turned back into me. So if you have any questions, you can definitely send me an email and we can touch base from there. So Nationals sent out a survey to all of the members on what are they really looking for to continue being an active member with SkillsUSA. So the top three responses was community, growth, and recognition. So my next questions is, how do you keep your local members? How do they establish a community? And if you don't mind to drop a comment in the chat of what you guys think to establish a local community in your Okay, awesome. So here are a few things that has been brought up and brainstormed wise as far as how do you keep and engage your students and create a community for your students. So monthly membership video series. One really cool thing is Doodly. If you guys have not looked into them, it's really cool and it's really inexpensive to create those. So just a monthly updated video series for your chapter. A chapter virtual meet and greet. I know some chapters have done movie dinners, meet and greet, just anything to keep those students interacting amongst each other is really crucial. Another idea is a TikTok dance challenge. I know a lot of the teenagers are into TikTok here recently, so the biggest thing is keeping those students engaged and participating, not just through TikTok, but through social media outlets and so forth. Another idea is a virtual community service. So canned food drive, sock drive, coat drive, or continuing the water step shoe drive. I know that was a really big push last year, and some schools still have those at their school. So you could continue that on and have the students drop off those items at the school on designated days, and possibly keep a record for recognition later on. So my next question is how do we grow your local members? If you don't mind drop in the chat for what you guys think, how to grow your local chapter members. All right. So some ideas for growth. It could be personal growth. It could be the growth of your classroom. It really can be adapted, really any aspect. But Nationals is offering a couple things, and then there's some things that you can do on the local level. But Nationals is offering essential element skill blogs, and those are being led by national officers. Nationals is also doing an alumni Ask Me Anything series. So they can directly contact some alumni members and really ask them in-depth questions on where do they go in their career? I mean, just really anything is open with that. The next is career cluster panel discussion. If a student is interested in a certain pathway, they'll be able to connect with a business and industry in that area and be able to ask questions and really get in-depth discussions about that path or about that career. Next is the framework toolkits and videos. Nationals is putting out quite a bit of those and offering new toolkits and videos. So I would definitely recommend looking at that. They would be a big resource for you for your virtual classrooms or hybrid classrooms. Another few other things is, programmer work, chapter of excellence, really looking at those and how can you incorporate that into your classroom just to increase the personal growth or your growth as a SkillsUSA chapter. Lastly, some items is the SkillsUSA week, trying to incorporate that as much as possible. And really emphasizing your local celebration. So I know a lot of schools try to do like a banquet dinner or some kind of recognition during school. So trying to emphasize those as much as possible is really crucial. And lastly is empowerment. So going off of this year's theme, this is going to be incorporated with nationals and with state conference. So these are some really good in-depth questions to ask your students and have them engaged, and hopefully be able to have some form of personal growth and how do they plan for the future. So, one of them is what does empowered to succeed? What does it mean for you and your career readiness? So these are some really good questions to ask your students and incorporate this into your classroom. Next is how do you recognize your local chapter members? So again, drop some ideas in the chat box for me. Okay, awesome. So these are a few things that are coming up, and I just wanted to highlight SkillsUSA Nationals is offering a framework certification. More information should be coming out soon, but it is a course that the students can retain a certification at the end of, and they look into the history of the framework and why it was developed. Another good thing to recognize is the Career Cluster Member of the Month or Member of the Week. So really looking at if you have 4 or 5 pathways in your SkillsUSA, really highlighting each one of those pathways and each student each month or week, however best fits for your chapter. Earlier, I said the community service, so possibly recording the poundage or items that each student is donating. So really trying to highlight every little time that we can recognize students at this point is really crucial. The little things sometimes go miles and miles. So trying to highlight as much as you can, because students are really looking at trying to keep engaged, even if they are sitting on the couch trying to do their homework. And then the other things is student highlights, the social media and press releases. So those are some other things right there. So lastly is membership engagement. So moving forward this school year, we know that students are really looking at the community growth and recognition. So make sure you try to keep all 3 of those components in mind. And I believe it would be really beneficial to help and grow your local chapter and your classroom overall. So with this fall coming in place, we are partnering with SkillsUSA Nationals to do a fall leadership experience. We are hoping that it will be October to November. It's open to all members, sorry. But we're going to be looking at the 4 pillars of leadership, the framework, and students will be able to receive their statesman and framework certifications through this virtual experience. I know KLTI last year got canceled, but I really hope this is a new start for our fall leadership conference. You know, even if it is virtually, hopefully we can use this as a stepping stone for future years to come. So next is going to be Brandon. He is with SkillsUSA Nationals, and he's going to really go kind of touch base on where Career Essentials is and how you can use it in your classrooms moving forward.
Hey, thanks, Kristen.
Yeah.
Want to appreciate you having me on board. As Reagan shared, would much prefer to be in person, but given everything that is going on right now related to COVID-19, excited to be in front of you virtually and share an opportunity that SkillsUSA at the national level has been working to engage our teachers and our students ultimately on that we think will be really helpful during this craziness that is virtual learning and the experiences that we have now. But thought it might be helpful to share a little bit of background around myself. As Kristen shared, my name is Brandon Monk, and I work with National SkillsUSA as a Region 3 manager, Senior Regional Manager for Region 3. My background is in career and technical education, served as a CTE teacher and CTSO advisor at the local level, served on our state board of directors for ACTE and local school division, school board that has about 14,000 members. So kind of in the midst, just as you are as educators throughout Kentucky, trying to navigate myself through this craziness and figure out what's best for our students and our teachers and ultimately their career success. So excited to join and just want to echo Kristen's comments. I know we've worked together a lot over these past few months to engage Kentucky students and figure out what the next few months will look like, and want to just share that National SkillsUSA is here to help as well, and anything that we can do through that process, please just don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. But today, I specifically wanted to touch on one of those resources that I think you may find specifically helpful, whether you're in the full virtual experience, a hybrid model, or potentially going back full-time in person, that will really maybe engage your students in a way that kind of modifies what SkillsUSA is. So when we think about what skills industry is saying that they need, what comes to mind? Just kind of take a few seconds to think to yourself personally there, what are some of those things that come to mind when we think about industry and what they share with us that they need? All right, well, we've got those. We at SkillsUSA have kind of worked with a large number of industry folks and stakeholders to really identify what industry leaders are saying they need from our students once they graduate. So on our next slide here, we've got a few kind of quick numbers that those industry leaders shared with us from a survey of kind of corporate America and what they are looking for specifically from high school graduates. So things like you might imagine, maybe that you just thought about, professionalism and work ethic. 80% of folks in industry shared that those are important to them. Critical thinking skills important to them. Diversity and inclusion. Communication is something that sometimes, although our students have communication devices all the time in their hands, maybe they're not so great at communicating person-to-person basis there. As we transition to the next slide, we've got two-year technical programs. You'll see a similar list of things that our industry folks are interested in when it comes to students. Again, with the professionalism, work ethic, teamwork, collaboration, the communication piece. All of those are really of interest to the folks in the industry. And then finally, if we transition to our graduate slide, I think you'll see the same kind of numbers and information, even at a higher level, that our industry is looking for. On the next slide there, I think there's 95% folks that are really interested in that communication piece and that teamwork working together, whether that be on a project or whether that be an experience that they have in the workplace, I think professionalism. So as you know, at SkillsUSA, we kind of take into account these, all of these really uh, important validators for student success when it comes to their career. Uh, and then also kind of in that classroom section, making sure that we've got some of those technical skills as well. So what Christian's sharing on our slide deck now is our framework. And you probably are very familiar with this, but really this is the definition of what our mission is at SkillsUSA. We exist solely to make sure that our students are career ready when they exit our program, whether that be at the secondary or post-secondary level. We want to make sure that our students are prepared to enter the workforce and that those folks who are stakeholders within our workforce are making sure that our students are hireable in that capacity. So when we talk about this framework, we created the framework in 2014. So as I said, you may be very familiar with it, but it was some intentionality in developing what this looked like because we wanted our members really to be able to communicate that their abilities were in a variety of settings and how they were employable in terms of skill set. So we have our students going into interviews. We wanted them to be effectively able to communicate how they may be above their peers who may not have participated in the SkillsUSA framework. And this was really developed by a group called Essential Careers with over 10,000 employers as they were asked, what do employees need to know to be successful? So you'll notice within our framework, of course, there are 17 essential elements for career readiness and organized into 3 components. That personal skills, which are those things that we kind of mentioned before with the communication and integrity there, the workplace skills, and then our technical skills, which maybe most commonly folks may think about as they're actually into the classroom setting, an HVAC program or welding program, kind of laboratory setting, or cosmetology, whatever it may be. Obviously, our students need to be career ready in each of these categories. So kind of the opportunity that I wanted to share a little bit about and focus most of our time on today is something that we at SkillsUSA developed and kind of have been fine-tuning over the past few years that really engages our students online, for the most part virtually, and experience where they can kind of take this framework and hopefully catapult themselves to be career ready outside of their experiences in traditional in-person formats with SkillsUSA. So Career Essentials, I'm not sure how many of the folks on the call have had the opportunity to hear about Career Essentials or know what it is, or maybe have had a vague understanding of it. But our next slide kind of explains some of the different components of it. And we created Essentials to find, implement, and measure our students' readiness skills within. So our goal today is to try to be as quick as possible, but it's to really share about this opportunity for students to allow your students to really define. So you'll see here on the screen, again, the framework kind of overlaid with some of the experiences that Career Essentials has, and then ultimately some assessments there. So in a nutshell, learning for students.
Hey, Brandon, I think we might have lost you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. But anyway, I was sharing that Career Essentials is an online learning platform that's really engaging our students in defining where they are, implementing some of the success that they have in career readiness, and then hopefully measuring that for ultimate moving there. So we've got Exploratory, which is for our younger ages there, a fundamental for a kind of a middle age, and then advanced and adult learner components. So those are kind of three different courses. Our advanced adult learner are mainly the same course, but you'll see some difference in terms of the types of individuals or pictures that are displayed in our adult learner program that reflects more of an adult environment that we have. So if we go to the next slide, it kind of breaks down a little bit closer kind of what the different levels are and what that looks like there. Again, like I said, the exploratory, fundamental, advanced, and adult learner. We recommend the exploratory course for really students that are in the middle school or ninth grade year, kind of their learning environment. Our fundamental would be anywhere from that 10th and 11th grade year. And then our advanced, we'd recommend for a senior or maybe even someone just outside of high school graduation, and then of course adult learner for any age outside of the secondary environment. So in Career Essentials, we kind of take students through, and this presentation is really designed for you to understand what it looks like and an overlay of what Career Essentials is. But the reason that Kristen and I thought it may be important to share today is kind of Career Essentials comes as a whole inclusive online virtual learning package. So when you think as a teacher what you're going to be working with here in the fall, and you know that maybe you're in a hybrid model and you are only going to have students once or twice a week inside your classroom physically, and you really need to teach some of those technical skills, Career Essentials may be a solution where you can send them kind of a link where each student will go in and have their own profile, and they can go in and take a pre-assessment, and then they can go through some of the online learning modules that are really around the framework that SkillsUSA has. And that way they can still be learning some of those components that are important to our students that you would typically teach in their classroom, but just based upon kind of that confined environment that you may have with COVID-19, you can focus on the technical side whenever they're in there in the classroom for those few days, and allow Career Essentials to really focus on some of those other components in a little bit greater area. So like I said, each student would, with Career Essentials, have their own profile and be able to log in, and then take a pre-assessment, go through a few modules, which I'll show a little bit about some of those modules later today, and then ultimately take a post-assessment to kind of identify where their growth was, and be able to measure that growth to see how our students are achieving And then based upon their score of an 80% or higher, they can actually earn a credential, a Career Essentials credential, and through their participation in the program that they could then put on a resume or talk to their employer about. And again, this is industry backed. So we'll go forward another slide. All right. So I shared about industry backing. I just wanted to provide some quick logos of some of the sponsors and industry supporters and those folks who poured some insight, not only to develop financially in terms of resources, but also the curriculum and the outcomes that they are looking for students. So these are folks who've made a contribution of at least $25,000 to Career Essentials and towards SkillsUSA's mission in the Career Essential development. So I share this to brag about our supporters, but also share that there's a lot of industry and a lot of employers on this list that are important to folks who are in our classrooms who are ultimately wanting to get a job. So if these employers are recognizing the Career Essentials credential as important, then we see this as kind of a platform and catapult for our students to ultimately be able to get a job and kind of fulfill their goals in the workplace. So we'll dive in on the next slide to kind of what each of these experiences look like for our students. And we've got the exploratory side here. So you'll notice at the top, there's a pre-assessment, and that's really to design, just as any educator would, to decide where our students are coming into their experience. And then there's the course, and then of course a post-assessment and the potential for a exploratory credential. So the next slide will kind of explain some of the topics that are in the exploratory course. So our students, through participation in the exploratory course, will understand things like getting ready for their career. So we'll talk about the Career Essentials framework, some personal strengths and opportunities for growth, career options that they may be unaware of that are out there, kind of walking through that a little bit, and then trying to develop some relationships and kind of understanding what that looks like. And then we've also got kind of on the personal side, personal skills side, talking about things like integrity and work ethic and professionalism. And you'll remember each of those were high button topics on that stakeholder polling that we hit on earlier, responsibility, adaptability, and motivation. And then transitioning kind of into a workplace setting there a little bit with communication and each of those skills that they would need kind of as a member of a team in terms of decision making and teamwork and sensitivity issues. And then of course on the technical side, understanding technology and computers and any job specific skills there. So each unit, so those are kind of 4 different units that are there within the exploratory side. Each unit would have kind of a unit overview, which our next slide will kind of explain what that specific unit looks like. So here, kind of a getting ready for your career presentation would start us off, and then a small career interest survey, again, for those exploratory learners, and then kind of what the SkillsUSA framework is, a survival guide for that, some profiles of different careers that are involved, and then again, identifying what your strengths are as an individual student, utilizing the framework. So each of the modules, each of the units within our kind of exploratory module will have one of these outlines, but they'll also have ready-to-made kind of lesson plans and assessments that teachers can implement. So you as a teacher would make sure that your students have kind of a profile, and then they would go in at their own pace, whether you want it to be synchronous or asynchronous. Allow your students to kind of learn at their own pace in this module guide. There's interactive videos, and then also some projects that students can work on as well. And then you as the teacher, really your goal is to get them started, but then also kind of assess some of those projects that they're participating in. I think about some of the capstone experiences for some of our older learners include creating a resume, which ultimately we know all students would need in order to kind of move into a job or transition there. So next we'll look at kind of the fundamental course. It's very similar again to the exploratory. The fundamental is a little bit more focused on kind of the the actual habits that folks would have within the workplace, and a little bit less on the career exploratory side, but more on career planning, right? We've maybe narrowed down at that point some of the careers that we're interested in, and by that point, we're trying to figure out how we can be more cooperative learners or a project manager. So again, you'll see that pre-assessment, the course itself, which has each of those interactive learning modules, as well as the lesson plans, the videos, and kind of the work and projects that are assigned to students in there that you would grade. And then, of course, that post-assessment where the student has the opportunity to earn their credential if they've got that 80% passing. So you'll see on the next slide that our fundamental course has 9 different units within it. Again, kind of all hot button topics that we saw at the beginning based upon those numbers that our industry leaders shared. You know, things like resiliency and resourcefulness and cooperation, and again, that career planning piece to make sure our students really know what they're interested in. So these are, again, all topics that would be covered in our fundamental course. And again, that fundamental is really designed for that 10th, 11th grade student that's excited to kind of be involved in the framework and understanding there. So again, I'll go to the next slide and share a little bit more of kind of what a unit overview may look like for our fundamental folks. Again, we'll do that pre-test, and it's kind of lined out. So depending upon whether we're in the exploratory, the fundamental, the advanced, or the adult learner, we would allot around 35 hours of kind of interaction with students that we have. So again, in our COVID environment where our students are needing some work at home, this is kind of a great resource that they can be involved in and can keep them actually actively learning on those days they may not physically be present in the classroom. And we'll kind of provide some great assessments for you, but also the students can really be engaged as opposed to maybe some busy work that may have to be in place or lesson plans that you're trying to develop while teaching another group of students within your class. So you can see here, you know, the assessments are already developed. The kickoff presentation, there's a video that could kind of go with that. So you as a teacher can either do the kickoff, or there's a video that will kind of play for you if you'd prefer that be the case. And again, the kind of the elements of interviews that folks can, you know, our students would engage in, and projects that they can be involved in, and then ultimately kind of a post-test. So each of our units has that post-test. So you'd be able to see specifically based upon here in the reliability unit where students were when they came in and where they are now. And you can kind of see the timeline that that specific unit would cover. And then also want to hit on our advanced and adult learner components as well. Again, I said these are for really maybe high school seniors or folks who are getting ready to ultimately head into the workplace, maybe folks who are in our post-secondary category. And then the adult learner component, those folks who maybe are looking to re-enter the workforce. These are great guides for them to really be able to kind of transition into that environment. Again, here's a kind of a pre-assessment where our folks can kind of go in. There's the course itself, and then a capstone, like I said, incorporating things like the resume, things that they'd really need to be have on hand already to be able to get a job. And then, of course, a performance assessment in which maybe an employer or maybe someone they're interning with or a family friend who they've done some work for before can kind of really evaluate them to see where they're at and maybe where they could go down the road with a little bit more coaching and guiding, and then a post-assessment and ultimately that Career Essentials credential with the passing there. So as our next slide talks about the 5 different units that are within our adult learner and our advanced course, and, you know, thinking about continuous improvement and initiative and collaboration and change management. These are all things that, you know, we as learners and teachers kind of are involved in regularly, but sometimes our students don't really have a heavy presence in. So kind of engaging them in a fun and interactive way where they see peers that look just like them on videos and, you know, have questions and projects that relate to them is fun and exciting and important. And it allows you as a teacher to really kind of get the best of both worlds, where your students are learning and being engaged in this important work, but you're also able to do and prepare for other important work as well. That way your students aren't, you know, kind of getting half of you, they're getting the benefit of the best of both worlds. And again, we'll just show a quick experience unit overview with our adult learners in our advanced setting here. You can see it kind of timed out with that pretest. You'll see some of the work that's involved kind of with the asterisks there, where students would be involved in doing in submitting electronically to the system some presentations and some of the homework that they may have through the system. Again, it's designed really for you to be able to kind of a plug and play with your students, to go in and allow them to kind of work at their own pace, where you could say, hey, on your days off, this is something that you could participate in. Wanted to wrap up again really quick with kind of an overview of what that looks like, and then open up for some questions that anyone may have about the Career Essentials Suite, and how it may be a benefit to you now during the COVID environment, or just ultimately in general. We've got a lot of states and a lot of teachers that are really excited about this and have been implementing it into their classroom. And it's kind of a real unique place for teachers to kind of go in and share some experiences. Kristen, I don't know, I sent a quick link to a video earlier. Sorry, I was behind.
Is it in my email?
It is, yes. I don't know if there's an opportunity to play that really quickly, but we've got a quick, just 3-minute peer-to-peer. Sometimes you can hear folks like me who work with National Skills USA talking about some of the resources that we have for students, but if you hear it from another teacher or another administrator, maybe in their own words, it's a lot more beneficial. So
yes, while I get that up, we do have one question in the chat box. And the question is this only available for paid members?
Yeah, great question. So Career Essentials is really designed for any learner. So not just folks who are in Skills USA. They could be folks in other CTSOs, or folks that are just in a math class or an English class. So we have really opened up Career Essentials to folks not just in Skills USA. Of course, obviously, it was designed with our students and Skills USA members in mind. So the quick answer to that is it's available to anyone. There is kind of a fee associated with each of these courses, which we're running a reduced rate now, just based upon COVID, and working with Kristen to see how we can implement this throughout Kentucky, just because there is such a need with it based upon COVID. So it is available to anyone, but there is a fee, just because we at Skills USA have a learning management system fee that's associated with kind of operating it. But I think you'll see that, whether it be the use of Perkins dollars, or whether it be the use of some of the resources that you have, or even maybe sponsors and supporters, the time that it may save you as an educator, and also the quality that your students will be receiving through their interactive in the module is really well worth the investment. And that's what a lot of our teachers share with us. They wish they'd kind of gone and made the switch a little bit further.
Brandon, is this the video that you're talking about?
It's not.
Okay.
Let me see. I want to make sure it went through to you.
Because the link that you sent me was to the pricing.
Okay. Yeah, well, my apologies there. I'm going to try to, I'll just share it in the chat if that's okay.
Yeah.
My apologies. All right, it should be on its way to you now. But again, I think this video is important to share, just because it provides that peer perspective that a lot of times is, like I said, a little bit easier for folks to kind of glean from and have an understanding from. All right, Kristen, I don't know if it's playing the audio for folks,
Is it?
but if not, that's fine. So again, I provided the video in the chat, and it might be a great resource. It's just 3 minutes if you want to hear what other teachers that are in different pathways, whether that be our law enforcement pathway or whether that be in our cosmetology or HVAC or culinary. Each of the folks within this video kind of are teachers or are administrators, and they can provide you kind of with that quick information that may be helpful. And they film these videos on their own, and it's their own verbiage kind of in the COVID environment. So again, it's in the chat there if you'd love to take a video look at it. We'd love to share that as well. Also wanted to share something that Kristen has set up for Kentucky teachers specifically. Again, today's overview of Career Essentials was designed to be a really quick message, but we do have the opportunity to do a Career Essentials implementation training, which is 3 hours. And Kristen has scheduled kind of a Kentucky specific professional development training, in which one of my colleagues, Sylvia, will really walk you through as a teacher the how you can kind of get Career Essentials implemented in much greater detail than I was able to share today. And Kristen, I don't know if you want to chat a little bit about that and kind of what you're hoping folks do in terms of registration there.
Gotcha. So I just sent over in the chat box a survey real quick. If you guys want to register, or if you're not able to attend the training, you can click that you can receive more information. I do know if you are not able to, you can still chime in on some future trainings, but they are not going to be specific to Kentucky. So if you are able to attend, and if you are interested in incorporating Career Essentials into your classroom, I definitely would recommend it. So I'm hoping to work out with our foundation. Like I said earlier, our foundation is looking at supporting some chapters. We don't know exactly what it looks like just yet, but some things are kind of in the pipeline. So I definitely would recommend for you to attend if you are interested in using this in your classroom. So again, thanks Brandon for just doing that overview of the Career Essentials. But for planning for your classroom for this fall and possibly this spring, here are some resources that I've seen some other teachers use for their classrooms. One is Google Classroom, how to use that. But I've seen some bit emojis that teachers have been using when developing their Google Classroom. So I've seen some really cool and interesting bit emojis and how they set them up. So that's a resource for you right there. Also, I mentioned earlier the Doodly. That's a really cool program where you can create videos. So you can do your monthly meeting updates. You can even just use it for your classroom as, teaching a lesson. So it's a really good resource for you. Another is a resource on just Zoom overall. And I know a lot of teachers have been using Kahoot, Remind 101, and there's a typo. I apologize. It's Class Tag. Is a new program that teachers have been using for online virtual classes. And then also up-to-date COVID-19 resources for you that KDE is putting out. So those are some resources for you there. And lastly, does anybody have any questions? This is my contact information. Definitely send me an email if it's an in-depth question, and we can definitely set up a meeting or just email back and forth. And over in the chat box, yes, I will send the presentation out, and this session is recorded. I am going to be posting that on our website. So on the website, I will actually go over there and show you. Give me 1 second. I'll show you exactly where it's going to be. So on our new state website, it's SkillsUSAKY.com. I was with the changeover and everything, we did have an original website, but I was not able to retrieve that, so that's why it's a little bit different than the previous one. But this is the home page. Right below, if you scroll down, that's where the state officer applications are on that tab. But the training is going to be under the teachers tab. And it will be one of these top buttons to be able to access the PowerPoint and the recording for that training. Is there any other questions? Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for attending and kind of treading these waters during especially this COVID-19 times. And I look forward to working with each one of you all in the next coming months and coming years. So awesome. Thank you guys.